And the time has come to have a candid conversation around marriages at last, given the statistics that indicate the divorce rate is on a high of 16%, as per the report that was released of 2022. Joining us in this conversation is none other than Rebecca Kihiu, who is a relationship expert and also an author. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We have grim statistics when it comes to, the marriage situation in the country. 16% is quite an increase there. From, in your opinion, what is actually leading to the high rate of divorce in the country?
The leading of the high rate of divorce in the country is forgetting where it all started. Because if you remember the first time you met your spouse, there are those things that you talked about. For instance, what I've said in my book, when I met my husband the first time, it was under a samosa and a Fanta.
Oh, wow.
And he spent his 1 month salary to treat me at New Stanley Hotel. So forgetting those little things in the beginning, how you started, that can create the coming apart of the marriage. But if you keep remembering where you came from, when the road gets tough, you can always keep up the relationship. And also not having the conviction why you got in this relationship. Why did you find this person to be appealing to you, to be your life partner? And also the lack of the purpose, losing the purpose, why in the first place you got married, why you got attracted. And also losing the purpose and the destiny, why did I get united to this person? Was this person supposed to be my destiny helper? Was this person supposed to want to catapult me to the next level? For instance, for me, I've talked it in my book, coming from a village, a very rural area, and coming to the city of Nairobi and meeting my husband, Dr. Kihiu. He was not a doctor. He was, we were youth, young people going to church together, serving the Lord together. And now he's a doctor. So now I'm in my 50s. You can imagine me forgetting those early days and trying to live the marriage. I'm going to lose everything because we have worked so hard.
Invested.
We've invested. And also lack of faith. Faith in a higher level, like for me, believing in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Lack of faith can, whatever your faith is, but the most one, believing in the Lord, that can cause the marriage to break.
To actually break.
Yes.
Then, before we get to the contents of your book, because this is quite the book, I've skimmed through it.
Yeah.
There's an increase in gender-based violence, and you're talking about having fair fights within a relationship. When you say fight and fair, that's an oxymoron in itself. So how do couples actually engage in such?
First of all, the couples need to look at each other as we are in this relationship to stay forever. So there need to be tactics on how to do the fights. One is to take control. When the fight comes, you take control. And I have something that I call time out. When the fight is going on, you can create something like a hold, maybe if you don't have a microphone in your house, hold something. When the fight is going on, Rebecca, holds a microphone when whatever the microphone will be, and I'm talking to my husband, and then he needs to listen to me. And as we are engaging each other in what the conversation is going on, he is listening to me and not hearing me. In most cases in our culture, in our African culture, the women are not listened to sometimes. They are hard. So, but when my husband is holding something and I'm speaking, he knows it's my turn to talk, and he listens to me. And then I pass on the baton, and then he talks, and it's my turn for his turn to talk.
So taking control partners listening to each other. And,
yes.
and I like that you've said there's a huge difference between hearing
yes.
and listening. Actually, hearing is the fact that you have your sense of hearing, but
yes.
listening, you're listening to understand, not to respond.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you're doing that, when you're hearing somebody, you tend to interrupt. And many couples tend to interrupt one another and sometimes trying to put words in each other's mouth, but whatever is in your heart needs to come out when you're not interrupted. But when you're interrupted, when you're cutting a conversation, especially during a fight in marriage, and you're interrupted, you're not able to express yourself or what is going on. So interrupting is another thing that can help couples to avoid interrupting one another so that the conversation can carry on. And during that time also, don't criticize. There is no need to criticize your spouse. Listen, and going back to the first time you met this person, because when you met this person in the beginning, there was no criticism, there was no interruption. Like when I was taken to New Stanley Hotel and there was a samosa and a Fanta, I listened to him. He was telling me, you're beautiful, I love you, I want to marry you. I listened, and then he listened to me. And especially when he told me, the Lord has spoken to me that you are to be my wife.
But then, Rebecca, this in this day and age, let me be the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use a slang term.
Yeah.
You know, we have been enculturated. The society is, you know, we are living in situationships.
Yeah.
Today, Rebecca is attractive to Kihiu, and Regina is going to be soon attractive to Kihiu.
Yeah.
Like, we do not actually accept those words that I love you, I want to be with you. Some say for different reasons altogether, but not necessarily for marriage.
Yeah.
So how do you differentiate between someone who is just walking by your path and someone who wants to walk this path with you?
Well, it has to be a desire. If you're that mature age and you really are wanting to commit to marriage, you're ripe, you're ready to commit to marriage. When that person comes in your presence, you will know this is the person who I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with. As long as you're ready and you've been praying and you've been believing God, whatever the means of your faith, whatever you do to acquire what you need. For me, it was prayer. That is this the person that God want me to spend the rest of my life with? Okay. So I believe being ready and not wanting a girlfriend or a boyfriend. One of the things I learned during those early days, we were in the same church. We worshiped together, but there was not the kind of love. We were not in a relationship to get married. But when the time was come, Patrick was able to approach me and say, now it's changing from agape love to the romance love. And I would like to I would like to propose to you, for you to marry me. Wow. And I was ready. I was 24 years old and I was ready to get married. So my mind and my spirit and my emotions were ready to have a life partner because I was ready.
Oh, and I thank God that was in the 90s, and you've mentioned here in your book, and I want to draw attention to what we're currently experiencing is that there's an upsurge on online dating. Your book says that you communicated with your fiancé for 3 years?
3 years.
Through letters?
Yes.
So you had a long distance relationship?
Yes, ma'am.
And the only form of communication was through letters?
Yes.
Thank God we have internet, right?
Yes.
But what kept you going? Because when you talk about online dating, especially long distance relationships, there's the issue of insecurities.
Yes.
How did you handle that? And how can we learn from you to handle that?
Yes. So when Patrick left the country, like I've said in my book, to go for further studies in the United States of America, I was committed when he took me to New Stanley Hotel and asked me, can you marry me? And he used his 1 month salary to buy me a soda and a samosa.
We'll need to know how much he was earning, but hey,
So I was committed when he left. When he left the country, I was committed. We had involved our church, our pastor, Bishop Armstrong Chege. So, we had involved our youth group. So the youth group, the community knew that I was engaged. I had a ring on, and we constantly wrote letters. I would send a letter to him. He would send a letter back to me, and he would tell me, I love you. I am coming back for you. I can't wait to have you. On the other hand, being in Kenya, I would get those little tapes. I still have them, and I would tape what I was feeling, the emotions I was feeling for him, that you are the only one. I'm waiting for you. I still have the ring, and I can't wait for our wedding day.
So you constant communication and being open and having that conversation about your intentions with that other person.
Yes.
The question is, how did you all know, your particular love languages? Because people are different. There are those who cannot.
Yeah.
There are those who want their person's presence.
Yes.
How do they deal with, how do they marry with that?
So I'm glad you brought up the issue of the 5 love languages. My husband is actually more expert on that. But when he was gone and we could not have that closeness or that dating, it was long distance, the letters, the waiting. One of the other things to hear one another was phone calls. So in this case, coming from the village, and those days we did not have the cell phone, I would arrange like my office where I worked, or if I was at home in the village, in the rural area, somebody had a landline phone, I would tell him in the letter that this date I want you to call, and then I'll be in that place so that he can call me, and I can talk to him, and he can hear my voice, and we can say, I am still waiting. And those moments also, when we talk like that, it was moments where he could say the temptations there in the country of the United States. And also I could tell him, yeah, I'm also facing it. It looks like my fellow brothers are not seeing the ring. They are still coming over. But because I had the conviction that this was going to be my life partner with purpose, with a destiny, I would tell him the temptation that are also coming around me. So with the social media and online dating, it's very tricky. Because one, probably you don't know this person very well. You've never held their hands. You don't even know how they smell. You just talk online. So it's very, very tricky. So when somebody is doing that, you need to be very careful and know that deep down in your heart that this is somebody you're trying to create a relationship. And if you sense in your spirit that it's not going the right way, you need to back off before you get into a covenant, the marriage covenant, because the word of God says the woman and the man shall live and cleave together and be one. So before you get to that commitment of the covenant of marriage with this individual that you are dating online, you really need to back off, because you want to avoid down the road to call it quits, and then you start divorcing, and then you have children, you've already started building life. So before you tie the knot, that is the time not to back off.
Actually, so what you're saying from your experience is that those especially who are engaging in long distance relationship using the online platform, because we do not do letters anymore, majority don't do letters anymore, and it's online that is that, they need to take their time.
Yes, absolutely. Take time, and as you take time, talk to other people, find a mentor. For me, those days I had mentors, people you talk to, people who have been married. Find somebody who got their spouse through online dating, and pick them as a mentor, so that the question that you might have in this long distance online dating, you can ask them question, because you don't want to be asking Google, because Google cannot be you want to be asking the real person, somebody fresh in blood. Hey, tell me, I understand you ended up getting a spouse through online dating. Can you share your testimony with me? And then as a young person, you get mentored through that so that you don't make a mistake.
Okay. At one point in your relationship, before you actually tied the knot, and even probably after, have you had a fight to a point where you thought you need to walk away? Have you ever had experienced that? And how did you handle it? As we are working towards closing this, I know we have so much time.
Before tying the knot?
Yes.
One of the things that was happening with me, he was away. So I had to do the things he was supposed to do. I had to deal with his family, and thank you, family. I had to deal with his family. And thank God to having a Bishop Armstrong, who would mentor me and who would come alongside me to go to his home for dowry preparations and talk to the family on his behalf. So that made it easy for me. As a young girl from a Mutoni village, I didn't have to say much, but to be on the background. But when now we tied the knot, that's when and left the country and went to a faraway land, America, and snow was here, newlywed. I thought I had gone for honeymoon, and I realized that was not the case. I wanted to take the next plane back home. I've said that in my book. And those times I realized I married him, and I would remember the samosa and the soda, and I would comfort myself, this is not where we are stopping. We are going far. And because I had the commitment, I had the conviction, I had the faith that I have found, he had found a good thing, and I found a good thing, and our fight was easy. And as we have grown now, we are grandmother, I'm a grandmother, and he's a grandfather. We have had fights. We have had fights, you know, but our faith in God has kept us. And one of the major things that has really kept us is forgiveness. Forgiving one another.
There is no problem with forgiving. How do you forget as we come to a close?
I know. The way you forget, you forgive and you forget, is not to repeat it. Not to repeat it. When you come into a fight, don't repeat it. You did this to me. You hurt me. You injured me. Your family does this. Your family does not like me. You don't repeat those things, because you are becoming one team, one fight. So anybody else around you, they either join the team to build the home and to build the marriage, or they back off. Because it's me and him that met in New Stanley Hotel for a samosa and a soda, and I said, yes, I will marry you.
I doubt I would go for a date and have a samosa and soda in 2023. But hey, if you want to have a copy of the book, well, that is a book written by Rebecca Gitau Kihiu. Yes. And in studio here, we have her daughter and the Said Patrick, who spent his whole salary on that samosa and soda. And as we come to a close, kindly, my producer, allow me to have the two just come.
Yes,
so that
Patrick is not here.
So we can have the daughter as a testament of this union. And as take home is that we need, those who are in a relationship needs to learn how to forgive and forget. And if you're doing it online, then you need to take your time to learn that person, because you're not just doing it for show. So as we come to a close, we'd want to introduce Rebecca's daughter, that is Joy.
Yes.
She's 14 years old, and she accompanied the mother here on studio for Sunday Express as we talk about how to fight those fair fights in marriage. Yes. Pleasure to see you. Parting shot, Madam Rebecca, as we come to a close.
Parting shot?
Yes, to couples that are watching you today.
You don't need to pack your bags to go anywhere. If you're married, you've spent several years. One time I had packed my bags, wanting to leave my home, and I had put the suitcase at the door. And I was like, where am I going? Where am I going? So my friend, My fellow Kenyans, where are you going? Why are you leaving marriage? Why would you leave joy with daddy or mommy? Where are you going? Why would you pack your bags? Go back to the first time you met that man, that woman, those early days, the first love. Go back to the first love and see what you can do and fight fair, because you are meant for that mate that God gave you.
Well, you've heard it from Rebecca Kihiu, and I'm not going to water it down. Go back to that first time that you met your love. I'm Regina Manyara. You've been watching Sunday Express on KBC Channel 1. Have a pleasant viewing ahead and a great start to the week.